What's up, guys? From the Wing is back. We are going to try to get a little bit better today, like the Pelicans are hoping to do. Hopefully, I'm back with Steve Jones Jr. How are we doing today?
Doing well. Happiest of New Year's. Hope everyone's feeling good and feeling great.
Well, you're looking 10 years younger. I can tell you that.
It was time to be pretty again. So I wanted to get rid of that, unleash the year 2024 and enter a new era.
All right. So how are we looking on Christmas? Everything, how we do? How'd the fam do? How's everybody?
2 thumbs up. No one complained. Everyone was happy. And that's all you can ask for. And so you have that moment after where you kind of decompress for a second. It's like, all right. So it's done. We're good.
I would like to tell you my Christmas is done, but this guy, you can hear my voice is a little different, little congested, little stuff going on in there. That's because this is day 8 of COVID.
Oh no.
Because your guy did it again. My third bout. And yeah, this one snuck up like a bad habit, put me on my butt for several days. My kid caught it. There's a whole thing. Way worse for him to catch it than for me. This one was worse than the other ones. It was this was like, it's basically like it was flu that just wouldn't go away. So yeah, I skipped Christmas. Skipped a lot of Christmas and postponed some Christmas. I'm going to be doing some Christmas on the 11th because that's how things happened over here.
Oh,
well,
I hope everyone's all right. And there's nothing wrong with Christmas Plus.
Christmas Plus. And so you should get on that right now. We should start some sort of streaming service that fits right in, add it to the Disney bundle. You get Christmas Plus, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus. Now featuring Christmas Plus. So I want to talk about it's hard to think, like watching the Pelicans right now is really, really difficult. We're watching a lot of close losses. We're watching a lot of things happen that we're none too thrilled about. But we got to talk about it, and we got to find things to talk about. We got to find some joy in the mess, and there are some joys. And then there are awful final possession losses against the Clippers, which was reminiscent of final possession losses against the Spurs and every other team we've played for the last couple of weeks, as the Pelicans have found some defense, finally. But when the chips are down and they need to generate offense in high-intensity situations, the offense tends to fail. So I have a question for you based on where we are with our 5-win Pelicans, who did not eclipse 6 wins before the new year. How many wins do you think they should have had? Is this a team that you think is like 10 wins off pace, given everything you know about their injuries? Or is this more like, yeah, maybe they could have picked up 3 or 4 more than they have so far, but this is just like, this is a frustrating, terrible season that's, some of it's to blame. There's some things on the court that can get fixed, but some of this is just bad luck.
I probably would lean more towards the bad luck, in honesty, to start. I mean, I think once everything kind of hit in the order that it hit and things just kind of steamrolled, you ended up in a position where 5 wins before January 1st, which I don't think anyone would have expected. And so even if you go to like before Zion went down, the thing with me was like, okay, the defense just isn't there right now. Like they're having a tough time recapturing the defense part. I think I was fine with the offense, and then it was just injury, and now you're a whole different team, and you're trying to figure out what to do in any sort of way. You're trying to grasp at how do we defend, how do we generate offense. Because we can't defend, we're not getting easy ones. Because we can't defend, we're constantly in the half court. We don't have any of the people that really trigger things in the half court. So you're just having to search for so much. So that's where, for me, the scale just kind of changed to where, how do I evaluate this team when they're not really a full team? And so I think over the last 10 games or so, they've lost. You've seen the instances where the games have been close, or where they've had leads, or the offenses look good, or the defense has been showing signs of life. And so you don't have the results of it, but 5-point loss, 2-point loss, with the 3-point loss in overtime to Denver, 3-point loss to the Clippers, there's signs of life. Unfortunately, it's about being able to sustain it. And so if you look statistically, like defensively, even during this stretch of 10 games where it's felt better, they're still in the 20s in offensive rating and defensive rating. And so they've never really had that moment of, hey, this is the good thing that we do, but they're competing. So I would probably say, had everyone not gotten hurt, worst case, they'd probably 12, 14. Like, would I be wrong to say like their worst case scenario would be just being the Kings to a degree?
Look, I started the year with by pointing out pointing at the schedule and pointing at this team and pointing at the fraught nature of Brandon Ingram still being here and being part of the roster design. And I looked at the schedule and I said, okay, if we're 500 by Christmas, that's a great start. So we're still not that far off of where I thought it could have been. But at the same time, we watch these close losses, and I think it's just tough for fans to watch a game where they do start to compete, where we do struggle, and all of a sudden we haven't had that defense, which for a Willie Green team is a really, really tough thing to swallow. Like, the one thing that you know about his teams is that if you are down guys and you get more of those wings playing and everything, what normally happens is, yeah, they can't score, but they can defend and they will defend. And that was something. And look, I can point directly to Herb Jones being one of the guys that was injured and say, like, honestly, that's a lot of the problem. More so than anything else, that guy and his ability to switch essentially 1 through 5 and you survive it, it covers up a lot of stuff. And his ability to fly around and accept these crazy X outs and stuff with distances that he should not be able to cover. I think that helps a lot, and it wasn't there. But it's also tough to see the offense break down late and to see I've seen a different team. Moral victories kind of suck, but there have been moral victories since the Knicks game because these guys have fought in games finally. It felt like we were just coming out, getting down by 15, then we're down by 30, then we claw it back to 18, and then you never really have a game, and off we go. The script right now, the bit, as you would call it, is the Pelicans get up on the team that they're playing against by 8 to 12 points, and we're surprised. And then it's like, actually, how long will it take us to lose this? How long is it going to take us to burn this out? And in a lot of cases, what it's taken is like 5 consecutive possessions to just completely flip a 13 or 14 point lead. And then you're in a close game late and they're battling, they're throwing haymakers back and forth, but you just kind of know we're going to end up on the wrong end. So I'm curious to the point about the defense not being there. How much are you surprised that the defense hasn't been there? Is it all that Herb was missing? And a lot of the guys, just like your starting 5 wasn't playing. So you have no DeJounte for a long time. You have Zion's in and then he's out. BI has never really been a great defender, but you don't have the right guys. And then your 2, foundational wings in Trey and Herb did not play for a long time. How much of the defense was like getting the reps with the right players out there versus do you have real concerns about like Willie's orientation with the team? Like, are we worried about buy-in? Are we worried about just where the team's at given everything that's mounted against them?
Less buy-in for me and more execution. Because this is a team that defensively, they give the effort. The problem is when you watch the Pelicans and you see them in rotation on defense, you can visually see the step that they're supposed to take, and you can visually see they're a beat late. So you can see where the ball is about to go, and you can see the Pelican defender recognizing, oh, I need to get out there. And you can see they're not going to get out there in time. And so I think it's just getting down and executing over and over and over again. And it's hard to do when the lineups fluctuate so much. Like, how do you build a base when these are going to be our bigs this day, and now this is going to be our guard this day, and now we don't have our wing that makes this pick and roll make sense? And so how many navigators do we have? Can we just do this? How do we simplify it? I think probably the disappointment defensively is like if you look at some of their recent games, the effort's better, but like guard screens, guard wing screens, these probably should just be easy switches. But if you go back to the Clippers game, hey, someone's trying to fight over the screen. The person who was the screener is going to switch. CJ's going to switch. Her's going to fight over. Oh, that's 2 on the ball. Oh no, Javonte Green is defending, and now, now here comes DeJounte Murray's man. Oh, okay, we're going to switch it. Oh no, we're both active. We're both here. Norman Powell on the wing and one. Those kind of plays are where it's like, okay, can we clean that up? If they're running dribble handoffs and the guard screening, are we jumping out and switching, or are we getting actually 2 on the ball there? Like, I think that's probably where my disappointment is defensively. And so, you can't necessarily do some of the, okay, Herb doubles randomly, because are the rotations behind him going to be clean enough to nail that? And so does that take away his aggression? So I think it's just overall connectivity hasn't been there consistently for the Pelicans this year on defense.
And so that's back to the roster, who's been available, and just the fact that nightly for a long time, like we're just seeing for the first time the starting 5 be the same for 6-7 games in a row. And I think we're all very, 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 like on a nightly basis, 2 players make us feel like the season, maybe it's worth watching the next game. The reason my emotions are still involved at this point is at least once or twice a game, Trey Murphy does something crazy, Yves Missi does something crazy, and they spark a little joy. They pull a little Marie Kondo, they spark a little joy for you. You see an evolution for them, and you're like, all right, it's not all bad.
No, hold on, Adam. I gotta get you to appreciate the DeJounte Murray elbow jumper and the CJ McCollum bucket getting.
Well, so look, I've been a proponent of the CJ bucket getting. I've been an apologist for the CJ bucket getting. I believe there is not a single player in the last 3 years that has paced the Pelicans' way through games and gotten them every bucket they needed in crucial moments. If there was a stat, I talked about this last year. If there's a stat that captured buckets made when a momentum shift, a scoring momentum shift had happened. So say you're up 12 and then all of a sudden, bam, 3 threes in a row from the other team. The guy that makes that next bucket for the Pelicans last year is always CJ. And it may be that he drives the length of the court and goes himself. It may be that he kicks it and finds it on a relocation and shoots a 3. But it felt like he was the only guy. And in a lot of ways, it feels that way right now. It feels like he's the only professional scorer when it comes to like just having a lot of different ways. And clearly some of the tools in the bag aren't as sharp as they used to be, but they're all still there. He's still got them all. And he's still got his little go-tos, that little baseline floater he likes to shoot. He's got a lot of different ways. He is the only guy. And Norm Powell did this to us like crazy in that Clippers game. CJ is the only guy that will use the basket to enhance his size. He'll protect himself with the basket by cutting from the left side, go under the rim, use the rim to stop the rim defender from getting to the ball and finish off opposite glass. And he does it consistently. Like he's using the rim as a defender or as a screener for himself to make sure that they can't just attack his tiny little body. Norm Powell did that to us like crazy in that game. And look, Norm Powell's one of those weird dudes. He's one of those guys I've said, like, end of bench dude that I have a weird obsession with. I've been following Norm Powell for a long time. Norm Powell is a frequent member of my fantasy basketball team. He is again this year. Drafted him for a single dollar, and I am dominating my league.
That's a steal and a half, by the way.
Oh, look, the dumbest things that my league let me get away with was knowing what that roster was going to be with Kawhi Leonard not playing to start the year, knowing that it's a James Harden, Norm Powell team. It's like, Norm's going to score 25 a game, have 2 steals. Like, I'm doing this. Sure enough, dude's over 20 points every single night. The other thing was like Atlanta Hawks starting night roster. All I needed to know was, are they going to start Dyson or not? If they're starting Dyson, I'm picking him up immediately. Boom. Starting lineup. Yeah, he's mine. Done. Anyway, that's our fantasy segment for the evening. I guess that's the biggest question I have is like, should we be disappointed? Is it fair to ask questions of coaching and to be upset at coaching and to do the fan thing where the easy thing is to just like blame the guy rather than look at everything that's missing and hold all that context in your head and say, this is really tough and I don't think anybody would make this better. Like switch up, throw Pop in there. Is this that much better?
Personally, I would probably prefer it be a mixture of both. Like, I never want to tell people, hey, you shouldn't feel the way you feel. Like, I feel like, your feelings are valid. It sucks. If you're a Pelicans fan, the season sucks. Like, there's no other way to say it. It stinks. 5 wins. It's falling off the rails. And especially based on what you've seen and the glimmers, I don't want to say the glimmers of hope, but you've seen, okay, there might be something here. And every time you get close to it, it gets taken away in some different form or fashion. So I can understand the buildup to this and it ending up being this makes it feel a different type of way. I can't get to the part where I completely blame Willie. That doesn't mean you can't criticize the coaching or have questions about certain things, but I guess it depends on what are you looking for. Like, I think if you want to talk about the defense, you could probably have some good beef this year, I would say. Probably be a little unhappy. Hey, we should probably be cleaner with that. I get it. Offensively, I don't know how hard you can go. And I guess it depends on what the criticisms are when it comes to it. I mean, you look at the Clippers game, and we talked about how good Missy's been, right? Teams are starting to notice, which means teams are saying, hey, it's very cool that you have the ball at the top of the key. I am going to stay in the paint. Go ahead and do your dribble handoff. And now you think about the larger scale, automatic drop. So, hey, Herb Jones, what play are you going to make? Because I'm right here if you get a handoff. And so, okay, you're attacking, you're driving. Floater's there maybe, but we're taking away the lob. CJ McCollum, now you're getting drop. You can go and get this shot if you'd like. You're going to have to make a bunch of them. DeJounte Murray, we know what you're going to hunt. You're going to try and get to that elbow. You might turn the corner. And if you do, how many times are you going to do it? Because we're still going to be here. And so on and so forth. And so you get into scenarios where the shot making dries up. Fourth quarter time, now it's CJ go get us a bucket. DeJounte go get us a bucket. But the problem is without Zion to kind of bust that we're going to play way off of you coverage to where he would just be like, I'm going to take this space very quickly. And now you're not going to have fun with that. You become, how do we get 2 on the ball? How do we create an advantage? How do we get to drive and kick? How do we force you in rotation? And can we make enough baskets to get a team to do that? Or are they just going to wait for DeJounte to try and get to the elbow and swing at it and try and get a steal, or hope they can get a contest, or, hope maybe they can like switch or force a reject and recover. But I think there's encouraging signs within that. I think a lot of that points to Herb Jones getting reps as far as being a playmaker to a degree. I think you've seen New Orleans flow into more like guard actions when things break down. So Trey Murphy catches it. CJ's like, well, I'm on the wing. Let me just go ahead and fly by you real quick. Trey Murphy being more involved on ball and understanding the need to make quick decisions on ball. Like, okay, not just dribble handoffs, but if you're going to fight over the top, I'll catch it. I'll reject. I'll explore the space. Like, it's not just, I'm going to go get to my pull up because the shot's here. No, it's quick downhill, keep you behind me. Big, you got to make a decision. I might shoot a floater. I might be able to pass it out. That's the good growth you want to see from him in that department. And so I really like the way that he's been decisive in those moments. But when it comes down to coaching, I mean, I'll put it back. If I'm a defense and I'm looking at game planning, we're going to sit in the paint. We're going to make you make shots. We're going to have to beat us over and over and over again. We're not going to hand you plays. I think that's the tough part sometimes people understand when you're, I hate to say the word bad team, when you're a struggling team with some limitations. It's not that you can't score. It's not that you can't run offense. The problem is you are going to run into the 4 to 5 minutes where whatever you're doing well stops going well. And now the reality of your team, like you either survive those or that's what gets you into a dogfight again. Like, look, man, I was in Brooklyn coaching. We lost a whole bunch of games. We competed in a whole lot of those games until we got to the point where, well, we're not scoring anymore. And we're not defending tonight. Well, we're going to have to do this. Like, you had to be Delulu enough to understand this is how we can win this game, but also understand the reality of, well, if we don't do this, this, and that, we're going to have a really tough time winning this game. And so I feel like that part of my brain hasn't turned off. So I'm like, I can't necessarily give all the blame to Willie there.
Yeah, I think I tend to lean in the fact that it's a natural tendency when you get this much negativity, when you get this many losses. I think it's just easy. It's always easy to blame the coach. And look, I'd be the first person to say I've defended Willie a lot in the past, and I would say there's less defenses this year. I would say there's less arguments to be made. If you made a passionate argument based on a lot of data and showed me a bunch of plays and showed me the closures of one possession games and said, here's why I think they should have a new coach, my only real argument would be like, is there a hot prospect on your bench that you're like in the way of, that your team is like a huge fan of? And if there's not, what's the point of doing it midseason? That would basically be my only real argument, because other than that, the arguments that I've had in the past aren't really there. The defense hasn't been great, even though they've shown more engagement recently. It hasn't led to much, but you have at least seen, finally, like glimpses of what their identity would be. You see DeJounte have a 4-steal game while he's out there with Herb. Trey's got a couple of steals and a block. And they're turning that into really easy offense. You got Javonte Green going at, attacking the glass and laying him in through contact. Stuff that I thought these guys would do. And it's just tough to do that really consistently when the guys you're out there with every night are different. And some of the guys you're out there with are off the street and didn't play for you a week ago, or guys that were just never intended to be holding down 20 minutes. I was as excited as anybody about adding a Javonte Green. Did I ever want to see him average 23 minutes a game? Not really. That wasn't that. The hope was that he was going to be like this icing of this 15 to 18 minutes of just dog. Just get out there, get on the guy who's hot right now, just guard him up and down, foul him, make it tough, grind it out. And instead, dude's been a starter for us in a lot of games and is holding down 23 to 26 minutes a game because he has to, because there's just nowhere else to turn. One more quick thing, and then we'll get to the sponsor. Should we expect for the rest of the season, I guess the outlook in the near term, we're almost at a Zion return. Jose Alvarado almost back. Jose bumped up to doubtful, so Jose's going to play in a game or two here. Zion should be pretty close to the same. Do we think that things should look immediately different when those two are added back? Or is the more responsible thing to do to assume that it takes a second for Zion to come back and to fit in with these guys, and that once again we're mixing the drink again and it's not quite going to taste right out the gate?
Yeah, it's 12:35 a.m. and you have poured disproportionately, and you're gonna have to let that sit for a little bit. I mean, we've seen the reintegration of multiple Pelicans in this last few stretches where it finally feels like, hey, things are going well. Not to not to dispute the point or anything, but it's just it's going to take a beat, because those guys are gonna have to get back, and you're gonna have to figure out the rotations again, the lineups, and what are we running, and how do we get back to that. So it'll take a second. But what I would say is the more fun way, and I know it's a disappointing season, track the progress. Track if anything changes with the team, if there's a little bit more belief, if they're able to sustain defense a little bit more. Because the one thing, it's tough when you're losing because you kind of carry that weight. But if you have that belief, hey, we can go get this one, you become a team that no one wants to play. So if this is a team that starts to have a little bit more ball movement, a little bit more kick, a little more activity defensively, okay, we're kind of back to business to a degree.
Do I want to be that team? This is the thing that I keep going back and forth. Do I want to be the team that grinds out, 10 to 15 more wins and ends up with like the third or fourth best worst record? I'm not sure. I'm torn.
I think that's fair, but I also am looking at this schedule just, from January 1st to January 20th. In this, you play the Wizards twice, the Blazers once, and the Jazz twice. How many of those games do you really want to lose? Like, just in your gut feeling. Let's take away any sort of the math away. How many of those do you really want to lose?
I want to win. Like, I would have loved to win the Clippers game. Like, if there's me right now, and there's me in the middle of the fourth quarter, and me in the middle of the fourth quarter is like, yes, just get one. Give me momentary joy. I don't care what it means. Just win the game so that I can be positive for a day. Because sports in New Orleans, beyond the Pelicans, this is the worst year of sports here in a very, very long time. Like, since the trash bag over your head Saints, it has not been this bleak in this area in all of sports for a very, very, very long time. So I'll take any little bit of hope anywhere I can find it. So that win, like, if we'd have beat the Clippers the other night, would have been great. Would have been great. It would have felt great. But what are we pursuing I'm wondering if is there an ultimate line where you should start looking at the draft and making your team better and your lottery odds and should be concerned with that. Like, yeah, I want some wins. I don't want to lose to the Jazz, especially the Jazz. I like the Wizards. Like, they're advertising. You got a neon sign on the street that says "Get JV out of here," and we're gonna play those guys. For our luck, JV will start and put up like a 20 and 10. I don't know, but yeah, I want to win. But do I think it's prudent as a business person? I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm conflicted. This is the season of misery that these people have left me with. This is where we've landed.
Can I share two things before you get to the sponsor?
Please.
So, as you stated, the state of New Orleans sports, I made a crucial discovery. I just realized Clyde Edwards-Helaire was on the Saints. And then, secondly, has anyone looked at the New Orleans Pelicans schedule from February on?
It's not good. I looked at the whole thing at the start of the year, and I broke it into segments. And I had January as the only month where you could like grind out a little bit of hope because you needed to, because it was going to get real funky. The NBA loves to give us a final 2 months from hell. Loves it every year.
Not only that, they have given you, hey, this team, you're just going to play them like twice in a row.
Yeah.
Like you play Denver twice in a row. You play Sacramento 3 times in 5 days. You play San Antonio twice in a row. You play Phoenix at Phoenix, a back-to-back at Phoenix, which, I'm sure players will enjoy, coaches enjoy. You play Houston 2 times in a row. You play Minnesota 2 times in a row. And you're in your season with Miami and Oklahoma City.
Yep. And I believe I went and even looked into, so of those back-to-backs, there are a few of those. I believe it is Charlotte, Dallas, and Minnesota that are also on back-to-backs, or also in a back-to-back when they meet us.
Mm-hmm.
But the only team, we don't have rest advantages against any of those teams either. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I think it's Minnesota is the only one where we come in with a rest advantage in any of those situations. So it's like, yeah, the NBA loves a rubber match this year. Anything to preserve our sweet, sweet Emirates NBA Cup. This was a strange schedule year where they did these pairing things, and it was a way to cut down travel, even though we put in the new games and had to do the Vegas thing. So this is the first phenomenon like this, where it's like, yeah, it's like baseball, just, yeah, fly to Chicago, play a couple games in Chicago over the weekend and come on back. Except all those teams are playoff teams. And look, And don't look now. Charlotte got Mark Williams back, and he's dropping double doubles in with 2 blocks and one turnover. So not good, Bob. All right. I'm going to hit a button now, and I'm hoping it's going to do the thing that I think it's going to do. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't.
Was that a record scratch?
It was.
Oh, okay.
All right.
You want to hit that again for me?
I don't have it figured quite right yet. But it looked like it went off. We're thrilled to be brought to you by Crescent Canna, New Orleans' #1 cannabis company, maker of the highly satisfying Crescent 9 THC Seltzer. You've been hearing about these. You see the banner at the bottom of the video screen. I have professed the faith of Crescent 9 THC Seltzers here and told you about my sour watermelon that I'm obsessed with. I also love that ginger lemonade. So I'm going to go back to the ginger lemonade now. It is January 1st in the year of our Lord 2025. We have entered the new law era of THC seltzers in Louisiana. So we are back to our entry level, our like 5 milligram THC beverages, like my ginger lemonade. I'm going to be hitting those guys. This has become a thing for me. This is how I sleep. This is how I get restorative sleep. I've gotten a lot of people involved in this stuff. It's surprising how many people you come into it and you're like, I don't know, never tried it before. Next thing you know, everybody's back here like, this is incredible, best sleep I've ever had. I can rattle off. I got a mom that orders these by like the 200 at a time and says it makes her a better mom. Look, you got to deal with 3 kids. It's a lot. So, as we've been making you familiar with for the last year, Louisiana's hemp laws have changed. Your 5 milligram offerings are on all of your shelves. However, your 10s, your 30s, your 50s, they are now gone unless you are in a state where they are approved, which unfortunately is not Louisiana. You can get all of these THC beverages basically everywhere. In where I live, I can drive in either direction and hit Rouse's, Canseco's, or a convenience store. I have 3 buying locations within 5 blocks of me. Basically, all of your local grocers. Pretty sure Winn-Dixie's the only one that doesn't have it. It's at Total Wine. If you want to go there and get your loyalty points, get your Grand Reserve status at Total Wine, go ahead and do that. You will still have plenty of Crescent Canna products coming. Plenty of Crescent 9 flavor alternatives will be coming. It'll all be good. We're going to have a lot to go off of here. Hopefully we'll get my sour watermelon in a little 5 milligram action, and then I'll be smooth sailing. As always, 21 or older to consume. Consult your physician if you have any medical conditions to be concerned about. If you have a heart condition or any sort of medication that you're worried about interacting with your THC seltzer, and enjoy responsibly. All right, Steve, we're back. I want to talk about Trey Murphy.
Okay.
Time. And this is a guy that I have tried to be, I don't know, and to what end, I have no idea, other than my fan base loves Trey Murphy. The fan base I am a part of loves Trey Murphy and has loved him since he got here.
As they should.
He was heralded as a rising player in the draft. We saw him as a guy like during the draft process that was like a late 20s guy. And you were like, is he coming out? And then it's late 20s, and every week it seemed like he moved up 3 spots. And then it became like, wow, a lot of teams in the NBA thinking about taking him in the teens. Well, the Pelicans do. And he's been a home run for as far as that pick goes, home run over and over and over again. I have always been remiss to just throw all of the heaps of praise about what he can be and what he will be and kind of get really carried away with the hyperbole of what Trey Murphy will be in the NBA. I have tried to be more calm and collected about who this guy is. I wanted to give him time. I look at the tools and I saw a very, very, very good deep standstill shooter with real size and real verticality. And you're like, okay, in year 1, just just a spacing shooter. And year 2 starts to add some things, starts to add a little bit of dribbling, a little bit more comfortable moving 1 or 2 steps with the ball, getting past his defender overshoots him, steps inside. And then we got into this place where I don't know what decision I'm going to make. I have 12 feet of runway here. I don't know whether I want to dunk or whether I want to shoot over this guy, because this is not really a thing I have a lot of reps doing. And so then it turns into, I'm going to try and dunk this every time. And not a lot of those dunks went in. Some of them did, but it became kind of a one decision option once you got past the first defender. I am happy to report that over the course of the last 5 or 6 games, I have seen a completely different Trey Murphy III on an NBA floor. I have seen a guy that has addressed basically every criticism, or everything I was trying to pause everybody on has been kind of addressed. He is a more aggressive shooter. When he gets those hard closeouts, when he gets those tight spaces, he is more willing to take that three-pointer and be more of a weapon there, even when the closeout is there, even when the defense is on time, and try to shoot through contact. There is more of that, which is something I was always worried about. And now not only is he taking the defender off the closeout, but he is incredibly decisive about what he wants to do once that happens. Or if he takes the ball up, something we never saw was Trey Murphy taking the ball up the floor and then deciding to just run it down their throat and just go straight to the rim. That is not a thing that Trey Murphy was doing. The other thing that he wasn't doing was going up into guys, surviving contact and hunting contact, hunting it from centers, hunting it from power forwards and from wings, and finishing through contact off glass. I've just seen a lot of different things that maybe flashed once in a blue moon in the past for Trey Murphy that over the course of the last 5 or 6 games really seem like he's arrived as a scorer. It seems like we are seeing a certified starter who is maintaining his 3-point threat level while also becoming at least a 2-level scorer against the best defenders in the league. So I'm curious, here's your on-ramp. Where have you been on Trey Murphy? Should we have been starting him in the past? And do you agree, are we in a breakout or a leap of sorts?
I think it's I wouldn't say breakout. I think the breakout was last year. Like the time to buy the ticket was last year, maybe even 2 years ago, if you want to say anything. But I think you are seeing now the ceiling might be a little bit higher than people anticipated, and the consistency with it is important. So I was trying to do the thing where I look something up, so I say something smart, but I have no poker face, so I just look dead in the face. So my apologies. But the thing that stood out to me is, in my head, I've liked the drives from Trey Murphy. And he's always been able to finish in the restricted area. I think he was at 77% last year, 73% this year. But 15% of his field goal attempts last year were in the restricted area. 25% of his field goal attempts this year are in the restricted area, which tells me the drives are stronger, the drives are more consistent, and he's already almost matched his output as far as field goal attempts there. I just like the mindset that he's had as far as understanding, this is what I do. I do it every night. I make quick decisions. I look to attack. If I don't have it, we get it out, but then I can cut to get it back. And the different ways you can use him is fun. So, it's easy to talk about the pick and roll play and the handoff play and hunting the shots and looking to make plays and make reads, but also he's a really good cutter. So you can use him off movement, and he can flow off of things where, okay, I don't have anything, but let me cut. That opens something up for someone else. And so you kind of get into a position where now you put together the drives. Okay, have him fly up a stagger, a pin down, get a flare. Opens up what you can run to a degree, which is a positive sign. I just have liked seeing him engage defenses more. I've liked the moments where he's a screener and he understands, okay, that wing is open. I'm going to just hesitate real quick, slip and pop over here, and I'm going to attack your closeout. Like, I'm not doing this just for the shot. Like, I'm going to attack your closeout, make you react, and if I have a shot, I'll take it. If I can get by you, I'll take that as well. He's becoming difficult to predict to a degree offensively. and you can put more trust in what he's going to bring to the table offensively more often. And I think that's part of the joy for the Pelicans this season. Let him get these reps. Let him continue to grow. Let him take the bumps. It's not a perfect world. There are some times where, he's waiting to get a pick and roll. Is the setup there? He gets a random screen from a guard. Did he really engage or make them switch or make them show? Or did he kind of anticipate and give it to the person who popped? Now it's a turnover. Like those kind of things. Defensively, the rotation still, for me at times, need to be a little bit more solid. But whatever question marks you had, I'm sure you probably walk away feeling good about the answers so far.
I think, like we've said prior, him and Missy are clearly the two things that you take out of this year and say this is positive. And you look at these two, and I think they've also just done what their job will be in another context as well. I think you're fortunate to have these reps because this is something you need to see from him, and it's something that makes him a better complementary starter to the guys that you intend to be the other members of the starting five. This makes him a tougher cover. It makes your entire offense a tougher cover. And at the same time, I think I understand what he is and what he's doing in this context and others, whereas DeJounte is a little different for me in that I struggle to enjoy or take anything positive or negative out of anything because this is so out of the context of what you want him to do that it's not just that I'm looking for small things. I'm looking at minutia. Like for me, it's they're starting plays faster. They're doing some things in transition they weren't doing before. We have a pick and roll, which I will say before he got here, we just kind of didn't. And so you get these 3 plays with him and Missy every night where he just gives them this incredible pocket pass on this great roll timing from Missy, and Missy yams it down through contact on his way to a rookie of the year. And DeJounte, that's how deep I have to look for the excitement there, because as much as we talk about him being a guard and being added to be a guard, DeJounte's in a spot we did not intend. He was not supposed to be a guy that has to be your primary option. That's, I think the biggest thing, and you've said it, you mentioned 2 on the ball all the time, and just to constantly reorient people who aren't hearing that when you say it. Guys in the NBA that are great bend defenses. They make you worry. They make you worry that one man isn't enough. And when you have to move guys around because a guy exists, which is what happens to Zion. When Zion's out there and Zion moves towards the ball, everyone moves. That is a tilted defense. That is what this team is supposed to be playing against. That is what DeJounte Murray is supposed to be playing against. And instead, he's in a lot of scenarios where it's just straight up DJ ISO. And it's because there's nothing else there. There's not other guys that can create their shot. It's him and CJ kind of taking turns at times, sometimes Brandon Boston. And it's just because it's what you have. So I find myself reaching a lot more with him. But the thing that makes me happy about Trey is at least everything that you're seeing is things that are going to translate to any context that we have. This is the approximate role that he is going to be playing. He's expanding. He's doing more handling. He's making more decisions. He's on ball more. I want to see more of Herb doing the same thing. Herb's been struggling since he's been back offensively, just being part of the offense, I've felt. Granted, the defensive ask is so gargantuan that I can't ever blame him. But it has been harder for him to be the cutter. He's been the standstill 3 guy. He's taking those still with confidence, and they're going in at a decent clip now. He was struggling with those when he first got back. But yeah, I struggle more when I look at DJ versus Trey, and it's good to at least look at Trey and say, okay, I know that's going to work, and I know that's going to work every night, regardless of who's around him. That plays on every single team in anybody's starting 5, and if he's able to be this consistent with those changes, this is a nice high end starter that teams are going to worry about. He's gonna space the floor against great defenses. So that's something to grab onto. It's the it's like the beef stew of the Pelicans, like not to reference Isaiah Stewart, but like the thing that's going to put meat on your bones is the Trey Murphy play, because you can just see how it's going to play going forward and why it's meaningful. Whereas DeJounte can have a great game, and right now I don't know what the hell to do with that.
Well, I think when it comes to DeJounte, I would say the context is very different in that he comes with I'm initiating a lot of things package to a degree, and he comes with pick and roll play to a degree, and he comes with getting to a spot. And so in a season like this, that might not feel as good, but if the team is a little bit better and he's sprinkling that in with like a second unit, that might feel a little bit better. It's like, oh, DeJounte did the thing for 3 minutes. You know what I mean? That's what pops in my head sometimes. So it's like the context is different. And then I also wonder, because we've seen Herb's usage shift over the years as far as the different ways they can use him. Hey, he's initiating. Hey, he's a screener. Hey, he's involved in this. And I wonder how much of them going to pick and roll or DeJounte running in actions kind of puts Herb in a spot where, okay, I'm spaced. Where are the gaps? You know? Well, we have a roller now. Where am I attacking? Where am I finding my spots? So I just wonder if some of that has to do with it. Because CJ, DeJounte, Trey can all kind of go and get theirs. Herb could be aggressive. And some of it could just be, hey, we're not getting as many stops. I'm not getting as much in transition as I used to a degree.
We are definitely seeing a lot of set defenses. And when we're not, that's when, like, that's where DeJounte and CJ are getting their buckets, is against the defense in transition. So, like, if the transition attempts, if your primary scorers are getting theirs in those spaces, there ain't a lot left for the guys that can only get it that way. So quick stat just to highlight. So how good has Trey Murphy been? Like this, we say the light switch has gone on. Some people were already a fan and would tell you he should make an all-star team one day. And I've never been that guy. And I've been trying to like slow everybody down. Like just let him be great. He's already great. Let him get great, you know, at a normal speed. Since December 11th, Trey Murphy is 9th in the NBA in scoring. Of those scorers, he's sitting there at 23.3, just behind Karl Anthony Towns. And only Karl has scored that amount on less field goal attempts. So Trey be scoring, y'all. Trey is putting the ball ineth the hoopeth. And it's just, the numbers are eye-popping. The volume stats, if you want to go look it up. And like, as bad as, I would say the same thing about the defense. I would say that it can definitely be better. It could be a lot more consistent. That's a team-wide problem. Still grabbing a little bit of steals here, grabbing some blocks, using his body more. So there's still like, there's just a lot to like. There's a lot to be happy about. Even though, like, don't go dig into the plus minus, because if you go look at plus minus for anybody on this team, it's going to look bad. That starting five's not holding up well against just about anybody. So don't let that be your crown jewel.
Also to add on the Trey thing, that was a great stat. Trey Murphy, 8.3 drives per game this year. Last year was at 4.2. So progress.
That's Jalen Williams level progress. That's real stuff. And we talk about like drives are not an anomalous thing, especially for him. Drives for him are not just, it's important that anybody drives so you can pressure a defense, especially one that's not set. For him specifically, he is so devastating as a relatively stationary player that if he is doing more things while moving, defenders are moving with him. And I'm obviously not saying this to Steve. Steve knows more about this than, you know, anybody currently on this show. But for everybody listening, like for my layman's New Orleans people who are late to NBA fandom or late to basketball, you want to see that drive number up, because if there's a person right now that has gravity, Trey has it. And if he's able to use that gravity, not just from 32 feet out, that is a win. That is a huge win. And it changes the way he gets defended. It changes the way people envision him. And if he does it over larger samples, it will make people scared. And you know what it will do? It will open up the things that he's already great at, which is the shooting. It'll be harder to hug up on him. When everybody talks about like guys getting a bag, talk about Victor Wembanyama expanding the bag, it's not because we want Trey to turn into a point guard. But if he can consistently drive and you're coming out above the arc to defend him because you're worried that he's going to shoot it from 6 or 7 feet behind the three-point line, where are you going to stand? What's your body angle going to be depending on where he is and how close to the sideline he's going to be? Are you worried about the drive every single time now? And does that buy him 2 or 3 more feet? Probably does. And that might result in his points per game average going from 20 to 24. And that's an enormous deal. So again, not to seem like I'm lecturing Steve, because he would be the one to say this, but yeah. No. Expanding the bag to get back to the things that you are already a star at.
And that should apply to a lot of players. It's an astute point. Remember that. Like whatever people are adding, they're just trying to unlock the stuff they're already good at to make it hard. Like the whole point for an offense is to make you make a decision. As defense, hey, I don't want you to do this and that. We freak out, things open up.
Did I steal that from you? Is that something you did recently on Twitter? Because I read all your stuff.
Did it yesterday. but no, it sounded phenomenal. No theft. This is what makes me happy. I like when things stick. This is all I want in life.
The reason I enjoy doing this, you've made me a smarter basketball player. Actually, I am a smarter basketball player, but that's because I started from zero. I'm a smarter basketball viewer and fan because of consuming your content. Well, but I think it bears repeating, and we should repeat it often on these shows, that like this makes his life easier and gets him to the thing that makes him terrifying. It is what, like, the reason Steph Curry is who he is as a person is because you're just as afraid of his handle and what he's going to do to you when he gets past you as you are of fouling him on a three-pointer. So he has gravity from the rim all the way out. And that's just really, really difficult to deal with. So, all right. So we hit, where are we at? We talked a little bit about the depressing Clippers loss. Should they be winning more of these close games late, or should we just like expect this to be the case? Is this just what's going to keep happening?
I think they'll figure it out. I think they're going to sneak a few in there. I think it takes time and it takes reps for a group to understand how to operate with each other in these close games. And so I think you're going to have the nights where DeJounte and CJ, one or both of them, have it going late and the pull-up factory hits and there's not much you can do. Pelicans win. I think you're going to have the moments where it's alternating, like we've seen during this stretch, where, okay, we're here now. One miss changes everything, or one turnover changes everything. So I wouldn't say this is the script. The movie can change.
You heard it here first. Steve is predicting a win in the Pelicans next game. He is guaranteeing you a victory against the Jimmy Butler Miami Heat in the throes of Miami nightlife. Will Jimmy Butler play the game? We have no idea. No idea.
I think he will.
That was a fun little presser the other day. Honestly, a little different than it's been in the past. Not the first time that Jimmy Butler has been in a bit of a departure spectacle. But this time he was like a lot more jovial in his tone. Like he was just like more comfortable. Like, yeah, probably want to be out of here. I don't know. How are you? Yeah, I'm going to play hard. I don't know. I don't control anything. Do they want me here? I don't know.
It was perfect work. And also I was kind of just looking at the 2 games against the Wizards and hoping you would give me that bump prediction wise. But
no, Steve said they're going to beat the Miami Heat.
Okay, there it is.
There it is. It's when he. That's I. It's not. I didn't do it. I didn't. It's not me.
Can I annoy the New Orleans Pelicans fan base real quick?
Please annoy away.
It's another Memphis Grizzlies connection from last year.
Oh God.
So New Orleans started 5-19, right? Because this jogged my brain when you said they didn't win 6 games in the before January 1st. Yep. New Orleans started 5-19. Do you know who started 6-19 last year? Adam.
I'm guessing it's the Memphis Grizzlies.
It's the Memphis Grizzlies. So they were right there. They were 6-19 going into a December 19th matchup. Do you know who they played on that date?
The Miami Heat?
The New Orleans Pelicans.
Oh.
Do you know who came back in that game?
Ja Morant.
And they won 4 straight.
No, that's a bit that's been going on here for a decade. We all know that Jimmy Butler gonna come back because it's the Pelicans. You know how I know he's gonna play? Because he's playing against the Pelicans. That's how I know he's back. Him and Pat hate each other, and Pat wants him to just respect the badge on the shirt and just be honored to be a Miami Heat. But yeah, he's going to play because it's the Pelicans. This is what we do. This is what happens. All right, one last thing we got to hit. Bobby Marks' piece about Zion Williamson and what to do with Zion the assets. Should they cut him? Should they trade him? And I have really only one question. Are you the anonymous Eastern Conference source that you're in control of something, you would do very, very risky things to get Zion Williamson in-house?
It was not me. I've never been an anonymous source. I got kicked out of the straw poll. I'm just Steve, man.
All right. Well, I found that to be the only real thing in there that was all that enlightening. Was that somebody somewhere, though, like the way it's written almost implies that this person has no decision-making power wherever they are, which would make a lot of sense why this person's leaking this, because it's not going to happen. I think that was the only thing. Is like, hey, somebody still has I might take that bet. I don't think a lot of people are going to take this bet. And I also just don't think this is a thing the Pelicans are exploring at all. There's a certain reality, not to get into too much transaction talk. There's a certain reality when you have unaligned assets or assets that you know that are huge, that are going to move or that might move or that could move. There's a certain reality to when they move. And Brandon Ingram was supposed to move in the summer. We have more reporting over the course of the last couple of days from Mike Scotto that confirmed that there were Jazz talks and that there was a Jazz package around Collins, like I have mentioned in the past, and that Brandon Ingram himself shut them down because he didn't want to sign an extension in Utah. That's the guy that's got to get out of the door first. That is the guy that just doesn't have a future here. And you're so carved out of the possible future that there's nothing to even really negotiate with. Like, every minute he spends here is towards nothing else. So it's just time to find a deal there that makes sense. So he is the first one out the gate, hopefully out at the deadline, because you've just messed this up. This has gone the nuclear bad way. You already took a risk in pushing a potential deal this far and not finding a way to get something done over the summer. You risked it by having him on the roster, and now it has gone the worst way that it possibly could have. Now the mission is just get stuff and move him into his future because he doesn't have one here. You've paid Trey Murphy. The money is not there. You are not going into the tax to extend him on a max deal, and a max deal is the only thing he has expressed any interest in. Brandon Ingram is going to go first, and hopefully at this deadline. Now, that will satisfy, most likely, any financial concerns the Pelicans have this year with the tax. They're not that far over it. It's not going to take that much maneuvering for them to get under the tax, and they know that is a thing that they're trying to do. The next name that comes up in my mind, not because of his status as a basketball player or his talent level, is CJ. It is just because of where he is in his career, where his contract is, and what he may want. This is a wasted year in the twilight of his career. Like, we are on the back end. This is a guy that was not like the hyper elite athlete. This is a craft master guard that you're seeing some of the go-to ways that he's scored are harder now. But he can still clearly help a team. So the curiosity would just be, with his age, the timing of his career, a wasted season, is there somebody looking for guard scoring that maybe has defense everywhere? And I tried to make this argument last year with Orlando, because he felt like a good fit there. I know they went Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and they've won a ton of games, even with all the injuries, but it felt like that was a good place for him to go, because protect all his deficiencies, and he's the second, third, fourth scorer in any given situation when he's out there on the floor. And defensively, he's just got to exist. But those things have not transpired. But those are the two guys. Those are really the only two guys of substance that I think have any real movement possibility at the deadline. And it's far more BI than it is CJ. From there, you can talk about Zion if you want. However, those two guys go first. Unless somebody came and knocked your door down and said, I still believe in Zion, here's first round picks and like good matching salary and like a prospect player. Somebody came with like a stupid offer, sure. But that's the case for any player, any day of the week, any season. Zion Williamson isn't going anywhere. DeJounte Murray certainly is not going anywhere. That has been like a weird, laughable little undercurrent. It's like, oh yeah, move on from him. No, he's locked into his contract for several years. He'll fit with Wings. He fits with Missy. There's plenty of stuff to do there. Premise of the article: should they move him on? Could somebody move him on? Interesting to hear that somebody is interested in him, but that is my context for the deadline. I would say we are looking for the BI deal, folks. We are looking for at this point, very depressing BI deal, which may very well be like Zach Collins and I'm blanking. My brain is shutting down because he's such a terrible basketball player, Keldon Johnson.
Oh gosh.
It may very well be those two. That's what we're looking for. Like, maybe you scrape back a pick because Keldon Johnson's contract is now your problem. But that's about it. There's not a crazy Zion trade coming that I don't see it. I'm dubious of a CJ trade too. Economically, like, looking around at the market, it's hard to manifest like where would it come from? But I could believe it just because of where he's at in his career. So that was a lot of bloviating. Kick it over to Steve. Do the Pelicans need to blow this all the way up? Do they need to just incrementally move away? Am I completely wrong? And should they just retain Brandon Ingram and just ride out the season and see what happens? What is the best path forward? If you were the GM of the Pelicans in their current state, what is your hierarchy of needs in terms of changing this roster?
Take the best deal if you can find it. Like, I don't think you have to just do it to do it. Try and get the best deal you can. Call Detroit. Say what's up.
Our old buddy.
I just think it's tough because, like, what are you gonna call Orlando? Do you want CJ McCollum now? No. Okay, that's fine. So it's like you want to move forward because you want to feel a measure of progress, but at the same time, how much of it are you really gonna feel? Is the return gonna feel good? And then what are you gonna do this summer? Like, I feel like the trade market is so active in the summer because teams are like, hey, this is the time we need to make a move. It's not necessarily going to come from free agency like it used to. You want to be in that ball game. And so if you do everything before the trade deadline, You might lock yourself into some things.
I am a proponent that they should lock themselves into some things as far as getting BI out the door. I am very, very. If you ask me to rank what I think is going to happen today, and if you asked me this a month ago, I'd have said the same thing. I think the most likely thing is walks and signs a 1+1 somewhere. Gives himself a prove it timing, gets to his 10 years of service, gives himself a shot at making another run at being a max guy. And in that scenario, the Pelicans are not getting much of anything back. Certainly not anything better than they could have gotten at the deadline. I am in the right now, I think that very, very unenthusiastic deal that I just mentioned from the Spurs, if they were even into it, which one of the things, there are rumors around that one. There's some actual talk there. I don't get it, really. I don't know why. I don't really love BI and Devin Vassell and the same team around Victor being that's a good build. I don't think he's a massive salary that I'd want there, but you do look to the cultural rehab teams, and the Spurs and the Heat are the teams you think of people think this guy isn't valuable, but we know he's talented. We can rebuild him. We can make him stronger. We can sell him at a higher price. Those are the teams you think of. We've seen them do it before. So I'm very nervous about the offseason when it comes to Brandon. I think we know most of the league does not want him at the number that he wants. And I think that creates some real pressure points for what the Pelicans could get back. And also, and maybe I'm just being a fan here, I'm just ready to move on. I'm ready to just let's move on to the next iteration and put players out there that make sense, create the space for Trey Murphy to just be the cemented starter and just see what we have there and feel like we're doing something different. I don't need CJ to go anywhere. I love him. I am a CJ proponent. I am an apologist. I am a respecter of professionalism, and he is the flag bearer for this franchise right now. So yeah, I'm looking at the draft way too much. I'm watching too much college basketball already. A big board is sneaking. We're gonna have a graphic here soon, and I'm gonna start making you talk about college players. We're right there.
Yay!
Dylan Harper looking pretty good. giving Cooper Flagg a run for his money for the potential number 1 pick. I think we're getting it's getting a little interesting. My guy Kasparis is still out there. I'm still a little weird on Ace Bailey. I think I'm going to be weird on Ace Bailey the whole way. I think Jabari Smith has haunted me too much, and I was very high on Jabari Smith, and he just kind of is who he is. And it turns out the lack of driving and on-ball stuff at Auburn wasn't because of lack of opportunity. Maybe Bruce Pearl knew what he was doing, and he just didn't have it in the bag. So yeah, big board coming soon to Pelicans fan near you that listens to this podcast. I'm gonna have to dream up and get a graphic in there. We'll start familiarizing ourselves. I'll start telling you a bunch of names you can't pronounce. We'll all learn together, whether it's Igor Demon or Damon. Is he French? Is he Russian? What are we doing? I don't know. We'll learn together. We'll find out together. We got a lot of Euro names to mix in there. I think that's the way we're gonna go. Nolan Traore, a lot of excitement over there. I think that's the place. That's the place where the fun is, right? In the draft odds. I do have to say though, I went and flipped the tankathon. This is now a thing I'm doing after we lose. Just go hit the tankathon one time and just see what happens. It's not nice. These flattened odds. I've warned people for years before the flattened odds happened. It's a dirty game out there. Those odds want me to have VJ Edgecombe real bad. I'm not happy about it. Tankathon's been betraying me.
I have a thought that might make you happy.
Make me smile.
So what would you rather have? Kyle Kuzma and Marvin Bagley, or Isaiah Stewart and Tim Hardaway Jr.?
Why? Why?
I don't think it
Why?
worked. I don't think it worked.
Tim Hardaway and Isaiah Stewart?
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
And that's mainly out of hatred for Kyle Kuzma that I kind of can't explain. Just always not liked him. Yeah. I think that's my answer. Tim Hardaway is an idea of a player.
So it seems like we have a very logical conclusion that could happen here.
Oh boy. This has been another episode of From the Wing, and Steve is sending us out sad. Hello, Detroit Pistons. Trajan Langdon, you up? On that note, we are out of here, folks. Join us again next week. Like, subscribe, retweet, do all the things. Notice my Jedi aura. I am part Force Ghost. Join us again next week. Follow the show. Talk to the show. Tell us things you hate. Tell us things you like. I try to let Steve talk more. I saw that comment. Whoever wrote that comment that I talk too much, I'm working on it. Learning how to drive, folks. I'm like a teenager here, relearning how to drive. Happy to take any feedback. Look forward to seeing you next time.